Other generations may differ, possibly because many first-generation Pokémon designs had odd features that were later refined and standardized. Shedinja's back brings up a brief yet intriguing and creepy Pokémon fact. According to its Pokédex entry in Omega Ruby, it's believed that anyone who looks into the hollow space on its back will have their spirit stolen. The wording, especially "it's believed," suggests this is more of a myth within the Pokémon world rather than an actual trait or ability, especially since in battles, a Pokémon typically faces away from the train, raising the question of whether it would steal the spirit of the person using it. Still, it's eerie. Regarding real-world locations, it's unclear whether this refers to regions in the games being based on real places or the many direct references to real-world locations in the franchise, so both are covered. The Kanto region is based on Japan's Kanto area, Johto on Kansai, Hoenn on Kyushu, Sinnoh on Hokkaido, and parts of the Russian islands, Sakhalin and Kunashir, Unova on New York, Kalos on northern France, Alola on Hawaii, and Galar on the United Kingdom. As for specific real-world mentions, Lieutenant Surge is known as the Lightning American and is said to have been a pilot in America in Fire Red and Leaf Green. A Sylph Company scientist mentions a branch in Russia. Mew was discovered in Guyana, South America. In the anime, James comments a gym looks like a Japanese restaurant. In another episode, a character dreams of going to Las Vegas, or Broadway in the Japanese version. Arcanine is often linked to Chinese legends, and China is mentioned several more times. Ponyta is said to leap over the Eiffel Tower or Tokyo Tower depending on the region, and Ayers Rock in Australia is also referenced. Misty mentions merry old England. In the movie Mewtwo Strikes Back, Team Rocket pretends to be Vikings. Brock says he didn't know Vikings still existed, and Ash jokes they mostly live in Minnesota, referencing the football team. In Swedish and Danish dubs, Vikings are said to be from Norway and Sweden. In the Finnish dub, they're from the Siblu archipelago, possibly mispronounced. Poliwag's entries mention swimming the Pacific Ocean, though later games simplify it to the ocean. Zatu's Pokédex mentions South America. A Pokémon card shows Pichu and Pikachu flying over New York City. Blaine mentions Kyoto in the Japanese Fire Red and Leaf Green. Delibird is said to have helped an explorer reach Mount Everest. Regice's entry refers to the Antarctic, also mentioned by Jessie in the anime. A few more places are referenced, but they're either repeats or artificial landmarks, so they weren't all listed. The Pokégods will be discussed later. In Pokémon Red and Blue, if you obtain Cut and then faint inside the SS Anne, you skip the cutscene where the ship departs. If you continue playing until you get Surf, you can return to the SS Anne. Before boarding, after passing the ticket checker, you can surf on the water. Surfing to the right leads to a platform with some boxes and a truck. This truck is unusual because textures are typically reused in games of this era, but this truck appears only here and only through specific actions. This sparked rumors in the late 90s that using strength on the truck would reveal Mew, allowing you to catch it. Interestingly, Nintendo seems to acknowledge these rumors. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, examining the truck gives you a lava cookie, and in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you can get a free revive there once a day. Behind Bill's house in Pokémon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, and Silver, there appears to be an accessible space, which led to speculation about a hidden area called Bill's Secret Garden. Many believed this area contained starter Pokémon, otherwise only obtainable through trading, or possibly the Pokégods. Jinx, introduced in Generation I and called the human-shaped Pokémon, drew early criticism in the West for resembling blackface. Its design has since changed to feature purple skin. Jinx is based on the Yuki Onna or Yama Uba from Japanese folklore and may also be inspired by Ganguro fashion. The GS Ball first appeared in Generation 2. In the games, it could only be obtained in the Japanese Crystal version by linking a Game Boy to a mobile phone via the Pokémon Mobile System GB. This made Celebi inaccessible to international players without cheating devices. In Japanese Crystal, after receiving the GS Ball and giving it to Kurt in Azalea Town, You return the next day to retrieve it, then take it to the shrine in Ilex Forest to trigger a Celebi encounter. In the anime, the GS ball appears in Season 2 when Ash receives it from Professor Ivy and later gives it to Kurt, after which it is never mentioned again. The writers intentionally dropped the plot, as Celebi was used in a movie instead. A popular fan theory suggests Gengar is either Clefable's shadow or its opposite. Their body shapes are very similar, and Pokédex entries support their contrasting natures. It's a widely known theory that remains largely speculative. When choosing a starter Pokémon, the rival picks the one with a type advantage, leaving a third unchosen Pokémon behind. In some games, like Ruby and Sapphire, this third option is never seen again, leading to speculation that someone else may have taken it. In Red and Blue, there was once a planned battle with Professor Oak using the remaining starter, though it was cut. This battle can be restored using cheat devices. In Pokémon Red and Blue, and their remakes, when reaching Cinnabar Island, players find the Pokémon Mansion home to the only wild Ditto. Scattered diaries throughout the mansion imply a connection between Ditto and failed cloning experiments involving Mew, between the baby Kangaskhan and its pouch, and Cubone. The strange part is why putting the mother's skull on Cubone causes Itand by extension, Marowak not to evolve into Kangaskhan. Simply put, it's because they're not related. It's just a coincidence. Surfing Pikachu. The idea of Surfing Pikachu has taken many forms in the Pokémon series. In Pokémon Stadium, if you complete the Master Ball division of Round 2's Prime Cup with a Pikachu in your party, Pikachu will learn Surf. This allows Pikachu to use Surf in Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal, complete with a unique overworld animation. Surfing Pikachu has appeared in later games as well. It's available in Generation 3 if you deposit 1,499 Pokémon into Pokémon Box, Ruby and Sapphire. In Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, it can be obtained by beating Big Boss's high score in Mantine Surfing. In Sword and Shield, Pikachu can learn Surf through TM04. A trading card featuring Surfing Pikachu exists, and in the anime, a Surfing Pikachu named Puka appears in an early episode. In Pokémon Snap, you can photograph a Pikachu riding a surfboard. Surfing Pikachu also shows up in the manga occasionally. It's a fan favorite and has appeared in many forms. Accusations of Pokémon being satanic. Throughout its history, Pokémon has faced repeated accusations of being satanic or demonic. From the early days of its popularity to the release of Pokémon Go, various sermons and religious articles have claimed the franchise poses spiritual dangers to children. One article from a site called worthynews.com discusses these supposed risks in detail. There's a lot more to it, but the overall point is that this belief has persisted for years. Spiky-eared Pichu. Between 2009 and 2010, players could obtain a Pikachu-colored Pichu by a mystery gift in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum at select game retailers. If transferred to Heart Gold or Soul Silver and taken to Ilex Forest with an open party slot, it would trigger an event where the spiky-eared Pichu appears and can be obtained. Taking it to Professor Elm prompts him to explain that this Pichu traveled through time with Celebi and is worth further study. Regarding the next video, there's an idea for one that was previously uploaded years ago but has since been made private, as it no longer fits the current tone. There are plans to revisit and improve it professionally. It will likely be the shortest video so far, probably under 30 minutes, which should make it quicker to produce. There's also the possibility of creating the music for it personally. A move is currently in progress, and once settled, video production should become much faster without the limitations of the current schedule. Thanks again for all the support watching, subscribing, commenting, and liking it all helps tremendously. Take care and have a great day. The game is said to crash immediately after the player encounters Buried Alive. Upon this encounter, he would say, "Finally, fresh meat," and then drag the player into the ground. An image of Buried Alive devouring the player was supposed to be shown. That's essentially all there is to the Buried Alive character in Pokémon Whitehand. We've delved deeply enough into the creepypasta side of things, so let's wrap it up here. This was the Pokémon iceberg. It took a while to complete. especially after taking a month-long break following the Super Smash Bros. Iceberg. Time was needed to research and write the script for this one. Hopefully, it was enjoyable. Pokémon holds a special place, and while many of these topics were already familiar, researching led to discovering new ones as well. Thanks again to everyone who subscribed. It's great that so many people are interested in watching long videos like this. The continued support is really appreciated. As for the next video, the plan is to revisit an old idea one that was previously uploaded but is now private because it no longer fits the current direction. It'll be redone more professionally and will likely be the shortest video yet, under 30 minutes, meaning it should take less time to produce. The music for that one might even be done personally. There's also a move happening soon, and once that's complete, production speed should increase significantly due to a more flexible recording schedule. Thanks again for watching, subscribing, commenting, liking. All of it really helps and makes interaction enjoyable. Take care and have a great day. Some claim to find them through bizarre steps, such as behind Bill's house, or by using complex glitches. A common fan topic is what lies beneath Diglett and Dugtrio, since they are always shown partly buried. Fan art imagines all kinds of lower bodies. In Pokémon Mystery Dungeon, Diglett mentions his feet, suggesting he has some form of lower body. Some believe they have small arms and legs underground, but the truth remains unknown. Another fan theory involves Blue's Raticate. On the SS, Anne, your rival uses a Raticate, but it's never seen again after that battle. The next time you meet him is at Lavender Town's Pokémon Tower, where he asks if your Pokémon died. Some believe his Raticate died during the SS Anne battle, and he's there to mourn it. While plausible, it could just be coincidence. Or maybe he used revives on his other Pokémon but not on Raticate. Or perhaps it was just severely defeated. One Pokédex entry says someone died from shock, and another says a gust of wind lifted this Pokémon's cloth, revealing what lies beneath to a passing trainer who went home and died painfully that night. Mimikyu seems like some kind of incomprehensible horror, its true form apparently so disturbing it breaks the human mind just by being seen. The mention of early generation Pokémon likely refers to those intended for release in earlier games but delayed. Gen 1 was originally supposed to feature 190 Pokémon. Based on research, several Gen 2 Pokémon were planned for Gen 1, including Shuckle, Heracross, Sneasel, Teddiursa, Ursaring, Slugma, Magcargo, Swinub, Piloswine, Corsola, Remoraid, Octillery, Delibird, Mantine, Skarmory, Houndour, Houndoom, Kingdra, Phampi, Donphan, Porygon 2, Stantler, Smeargle, Tyrogue, Hitmontop, Smoochum, Elekid, Magby, Miltank, Blissey, Raikou, Entei, Suicune, Larvitar, Pupitar, Tyranitar, and Lugia. The idea is supported by Missing No having 39 unique values that, when traded from red and blue to gold and silver, corresponded to these Pokémon. While not definitive, it's an interesting clue. In Pokémon X and Y, a traveling NPC mentions being from a region not known at the time and gives a tiki-like item called the Strange Souvenir. It served no purpose except as a hint toward the future Alola region introduced in Gen 7. During the 1997 Space World demo of Gold and Silver, several differences were shown, including a different title screen and New Bark Town being called Silent Hills, likely changed to avoid confusion with a horror game. Several Pokémon designs were shown that never made it to release, such as Honoguma, possibly in place of Cyndaquil, and its evolutions, and Kurasu, possibly in place of Totodile, with its evolutions. There was also a bird-like evolution for Hoot Hoot, named Bobo. These designs, among others, were later scrapped. A theory about Wobbuffet suggests its blue body is a decoy and its black tail with eyes is the real body. According to a Sapphire Pokédex entry, Wobbuffet will endure any attack except one aimed at its tail, which triggers it to retaliate with Destiny Bond. This seems to support the idea that the tail is its true form, although this hasn't been officially confirmed. In a 2007 Nintendo Power interview, Junichi Masuda mentioned a sea slug Pokémon that was meant for Ruby and Sapphire but was later included in Diamond and Pearl. Given that Shellos is described as a sea slug Pokémon and its sprites were found in Ruby and Sapphire's files, it confirms Shellos and Gastrodon were originally intended for earlier games. The existence of real animals alongside Pokémon has been present since the franchise began but is rarely discussed in depth. Real animals are often casually mentioned in the games, anime, and cards, and Pokémon themselves are frequently described in terms of real-world animals, for example, Pikachu being called an electric mouse, Pokémon implying that animals like mice also exist in that universe. One Pokédex entry says someone died from shock, and another says a gust of wind exposed what was under this Pokémon's rag, causing a passing trainer to go home and die painfully that same night. Mimikyu seems to be some kind of otherworldly entity so incomprehensible that just seeing it can shatter the human mind. Regarding earlier Pokémon generations, this likely refers to Pokémon originally meant to appear in previous games but were delayed. Generation I was supposed to include 190 Pokémon. Based on research, it appears several Generation 2 Pokémon were initially intended for Generation 1, including Shuckle, Heracross, Sneasel, Teddiursa, Ursaring, Slugma, Magcargo, Swinub, Piloswine, Corsola, Remoraid, Octillery, Delibird, Mantine, Skarmory, Houndour, Houndoom, Kingdra, Phanpy, Donphan, Porygon 2, Stantler, Smeargle, Tyrogue, Hitmontop, Smoochum, Elekid, Magby, Miltank, Blissey, Raikou, Entei, Suicune, Larvitar, Pupitar, Tyranitar, and Lugia. This conclusion is partly based on missing number, which has 39 unique values. When transferred from red and blue to gold and silver, these values corresponded to 39 of those Pokémon. It's not absolute proof, but it's a compelling link. In Pokémon X and Y, a traveling NPC says he's from a region that's not Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, or Unova, and gives a tiki-like item called the Strange Souvenir. This was a hint toward the Alola region in Generation 7. The item had no real use other than being sold for money. During Space World 1997, a demo of Pokémon Gold and Silver was shown that looked close to the final version but with notable differences. The title screen was different. Silver showed Ho-Oh instead of Lugia, and New Bark Town was called Silent Hills, likely changed to avoid confusion with the horror game series. Several Pokémon were present in the demo that never made it into the final game, such as Honoguma, which appeared to replace Cyndaquil, and its evolutions, Kurasu, replacing Totodile, and its evolutions, a different version of Hoot Hoot's evolution, called Bobo, and many others. Bobo also shares a name with the mechanical owl from Clash of the Titans, which may be a reference. Another theory involves Wobbuffet's tail. It suggests that the blue body is a decoy, and the tail with eyes is the real Wobbuffet. The Sapphire Pokédex says Wobbuffet doesn't attack on its own, and only retaliates if its tail is hit, using Destiny Bond. This supports the idea that the tail is its true form, though it hasn't been confirmed officially. In a 2007 Nintendo Power interview, Junichi Masuda mentioned a sea slug Pokémon that couldn't be included in Ruby and Sapphire but was later added to Diamond and Pearl. This clearly refers to Shellos, the sea slug Pokémon, and its evolution, Gastrodon. Their back sprites were also found in the Ruby and Sapphire files, confirming this. The idea of real-world animals existing alongside Pokémon has always been part of the series, though rarely discussed in depth. Real animals are occasionally referenced in games, anime, and cards. Pokémon like Pikachu are labeled with animal descriptors, such as electric mouse Pokémon, suggesting that real animals like mice might also exist in that universe. Meowth is shown holding a red Fender Stratocaster, referencing Meowth's party. The description mentions that in 1999, Burger King teamed up with Nintendo to include Pokémon toys in their kids' meals. This was during the height of the franchise's popularity and coincided with the release of the first Pokémon movie. The promotion was so successful that stores struggled to keep the toys in stock. Along with the toys, There was also a premium item available for purchase, a display Pokeball containing a 23-karat gold-plated item, often referred to as a card, though it resembled more of a plaque. Despite the gold plating, these items aren't particularly valuable, as they contain very little real gold. There's curiosity about how much gold could actually be extracted from one, and someone even offered to donate one for melting to find out. In total, there were 56 toys, each representing a different Pokémon, and each came with a plastic Pokeball keychain. However, these keychains later became known for being a choking hazard. One tragic incident involved the death of a 13-month-old child, and another close call occurred with an 18-month-old whose father intervened in time. As a result, the Pokeballs were recalled, though many still remain in circulation and are easily found online. In Pokémon Red, Blue, and Yellow, a character named Lieutenant Surge references a war where electric-type Pokémon saved him, but no further details are provided. This led to various fan theories, including speculation that the war is why the main character has no father and the rival seems to lack any parental figures. Theories go deeper, suggesting Pokémon may have been used as weapons, but nothing has been officially confirmed. In a 1997 issue of the Japanese magazine Micro Group, a turtle-like Pokémon appears on the cover. Despite never being included in Pokémon Gold and Silver, the games covered in the issue. Many believe this design later became Tortuga, but there's a belief that numerous designs from early development still haven't been revealed. On the same magazine cover, only Tyranitar is a confirmed Pokémon. One appeared years later, and another never appeared at all. An April 1999 issue of Expert Gamer magazine featured a supposed method to obtain Yoshi in Pokémon Red and Blue. The instructions involved trading and evolving a Dratini, then using a Firestone at a specific location to evolve Dragonite into Yoshi. It was clearly an April Fool's joke, but many kids at the time likely attempted it. The story was obscure and not widely known unless one read the magazine. As for Munna, although it didn't appear in Generation 1, a trainer on Route 10 in Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red, and Leaf Green mentions wanting a pink Pokémon with a floral pattern. Munna, introduced in Generation 5, fits that description. Another enduring mystery is what the inside of a Pokeball looks like. Pokémon have always been shown to reside in these balls, but the internal environment is rarely explored. Fans often wonder if it's comfortable or what the Pokémon experience inside. The shows provide only limited clues, leaving it mostly to imagination. Meowth is shown holding a red Fender Stratocaster from Meowth's party. The description even mentions Burger King. In 1999, Burger King partnered with Nintendo to include Pokémon toys in their kids' meals. This happened at the height of the franchise's popularity and was meant to align with the release of Pokémon, the first movie. Kids went wild for it, and many Burger King locations struggled to keep up with demand. Along with the toys, there was also a premium item available for purchasey display, Pokeball, containing a 23-karat gold-plated item. Although referred to as a card, it's more of a plate or plaque. They look great but hold little actual value since the gold is only plated, and the amount of real gold used is minimal. It would be interesting to see how much gold could actually be extracted by melting one down. In total, there were 56 toys, each featuring a different Pokémon and including a plastic Pokeball keychain. However, these Pokeballs turned out to be a choking hazard, leading to the tragic death of a 13-month-old and a near incident involving an 18-month-old who was saved by a nearby parent. This resulted in a recall, though many of the items are still available today through online marketplaces. In Pokémon Red, Blue, and Yellow, Lieutenant Surge references a war where electric-type Pokémon helped save him. No further details are provided, but fans have developed theories about this war, possibly explaining the absence of certain characters' parents. These theories delve into the idea of Pokémon being used as weapons, but nothing has been confirmed, leaving the topic open to speculation. In a 1997 issue of a Japanese magazine called Micro Group, a turtle-like Pokémon was shown on the cover, which never appeared in Pokémon Gold and Silver games being covered. Some think it later became Tortuga. The same cover also shows other unknown Pokémon Of the three featured, only Tyranitar is real. One appeared years later, and the other never did. It's believed that many Pokémon designs from the early days of development remain unreleased. An article in the April 1999 issue of Expert Gamer magazine claimed that Yoshi could be obtained in Pokémon Red and Blue. The steps involve trading a Dratini between versions, evolving it into Dragonite, and using a Firestone on it at the unknown dungeon where Mewtwo is found. If done correctly, the Dragonite would supposedly evolve into Yoshi. This was clearly an April Fool's joke, but in 1999, many likely tried it. In Generation 1, the Pokémon Munna doesn't appear, but in Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, a trainer on Route 10 mentions wanting a pink Pokémon with a floral pattern. This was eventually realized in the form of Munna in Generation 5. One long-standing mystery among fans is what's inside a Pokéball. From the beginning, Pokémon have been known to reside in them, but little is shown about the interior. Do the Pokémon enjoy being in there? Is it comfortable? The show typically only depicts the entry and exit process, leaving the inside a mystery. When a Pokémon is retrieved, a beam of energy from the Pokéball hits it, turning the Pokémon a translucent red before it's pulled back into the ball. When released, it usually emerges from a white burst of energy. In the series, Pokémon often appear to be aware of their surroundings, even while inside their Pokéballs, and in some cases, can leave them on their own. Despite this, the true interior of a Pokéball remains unknown. In the manga, Pokémon are shown simply sitting idle inside their Pokéballs, which is hopefully not an accurate depiction. A common theory suggests that the inside of a Pokéball adjusts to each Pokémon's ideal environment, providing what they need to feel comfortable. Although this hasn't been officially confirmed, it fits with the world's logic. Similarly, what exists inside the PC system remains speculative. The PC can store both items and many Pokémon, suggesting a conversion of Pokémon into energy or data, allowing them to be accessed from any compatible PC, likely tied to a trainer's ID, much like a cloud storage system. In 2000, there was a lawsuit regarding a Pokémon that bends spoons with its mind, similar to a well-known magician's act. The Pokémon's Japanese name even resembles the magician's, leading to legal action. Despite criticism, in 2020, the magician publicly apologized for the lawsuit, sharing memorabilia from the time, such as trading cards, figures, and a VHS tape. As for the legendary beasts, Entei, Suicune, and Raikou found in Pokémon Gold, Silver, and Crystalthe originated from a story in which 3 Pokémon died in a burning tower and were revived as powerful new forms. It's rumored these Pokémon were originally Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, based on the city's connection to EV evolutions and their shared elemental types. Though it's unclear how a water type like Vaporeon could perish in a fire, the theory remains popular due to these connections. Arbok, a snake-based Pokémon, has had minor design changes across generations. Its hood, modelled after a cobra's, features an intimidating face pattern that alters slightly each generation, with changes in colour and the shapes of the eyes and mouth. In Generation 1, Arbok's hood even included W-shaped patterns that didn't appear in later versions. Other generations may differ, possibly because many first-generation Pokémon had unusual design quirks that were later corrected or standardized. Shedinja's back leads to a short but intriguing and eerie Pokémon fact. The Pokédex entry for Shedinja in Omega Ruby states, "It's believed that this Pokémon will steal the spirit of anyone peering into its hollow body from behind." The phrasing, beginning with "it's believed," suggests this may be more of an in-universe myth than an actual fact or ability. This makes sense, considering that during battles, a Pokémon's back usually faces its trainer, so would it be stealing their spirit? Who knows, but it's certainly creepy. As for real-world locations, it's unclear whether this refers to Pokémon regions being modelled after real places or to actual real-world locations mentioned in the series, so both will be covered. Starting with regions, Kanto is based on Japan's Kanto region, Johto is based on the Kansai region, Hoenn is based on Kyushu, Sinnoh is based on Hokkaido and southern parts of the Russian islands of Sakhalin and Kunashir. Unova is based on New York. Kalos is based on northern France. Alola is based on the Hawaiian Islands. Galar is based on the United Kingdom. Now, for real-world location references within the series, only those clearly cited as locations, not names like a Spiro named Kenya, Lieutenant Surge is referred to as the Lightning American and is noted to have been a pilot in America in Fire Red and Leaf Green. In the same games, a scientist in Sylph Company mentions an international branch in Russia. Mew is said to be discovered in Guyana, South America. In the anime, James says the Fuchsia City Gym resembles a Japanese restaurant. In the dubbed episode March of the Executor Squad, a character wants to go to Las Vegas. In Japanese, it's Broadway. Arcanine's Pokédex often ties it to Chinese legends. Ponyta is said to leap over the Eiffel Tower or Tokyo Tower, depending on the region. Ayers Rock in Australia is mentioned. Misty refers to merry old England in one episode. In Mewtwo Strikes Back, Team Rocket pretends to be Vikings. Brock says he didn't know Vikings still existed, and Ash replies, they mostly live in Minnesota, a nod to the Minnesota Vikings football team. In other dubs, the Vikings are said to come from Norway, Sweden, or the Siblu Archipelago, mispronounced. Polyrath's Pokédex says it swims across the Pacific Ocean. In Omega, Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, this was simplified to the ocean. Zatu's Pokédex in Soul Silver and Fire Red references South America. A Pokémon trading card, Lucky Stadium, shows Pichu and Pikachu flying on Charizard over New York City, with landmarks like the Empire State Building visible. In the Japanese version of Fire Red and Leaf Green, Blaine explicitly mentions Kyoto. Delabird's Pokédex entry says it helped a famous explorer reach Mount Everest. Regice's Pokédex entry in Emerald mentions Antarctica, which is also referenced by Jessie in an anime episode. There are a few more references, but many are duplicates or refer to man-made landmarks, which could theoretically exist in various places. Therefore, only the more distinct natural landmarks were primarily included. Every scene in the original Generation 1 opening doesn't seem to reveal much. There's a moment of Ash riding on a Lapras that resembles a scene from the banned Holiday High Jinx episode. Though that specific shot never appears in the episode, it just looks similar. Another scene shows Tentacruel smashing a building, which comes from the Tentacool and Tentacruel episode, though that episode was only briefly banned after the 11th of September. Other scenes are either from aired episodes or created specifically for the intro. If anyone has more information, it would be appreciated, as nothing else has turned up so far. The theory about Genesect being a modified Kabutops is based on their similar shapes and Pokédex entries that both say they lived 300 million years ago. However, Genesect is a bug, steel type, not a rock, water type like Kabutops. The steel part likely comes from enhancements made by Team Plasma, but even then, if it were based on Kabutops, it might at least be steel, water. The resemblance seems like a coincidence, and if Genesect had water as its secondary type instead of bug, the theory might be more convincing. As it stands, there's not enough evidence. As for the unobtainable Arceus, it's unclear exactly what's being referenced. There is an Arceus in the game files, with a placeholder typing, represented by that can't be obtained. That might be it, but no other unobtainable Arceus versions have been found in the games during research. In Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, the only available fire types before the postgame are Chimchar and Ponyta. You can't even evolve Eevee into Flareon until after beating the Elite Four, which is pretty absurd. In Pokémon Platinum, you meet a mysterious character called Looker who never gives his real name. Some fans believe he's a reference to the 10th Doctor from Doctor Who, played by David Tennant. That's plausible, especially considering Doctor Who's popularity. Still, his design is just a standard detective, so it could go either way. Porygon did nothing wrong refers to the Season 1 episode Electric Soldier Porygon, which caused seizures in many viewers due to a flashing red and blue light sequence. Guinness World Records even recognized the event for causing the most photosensitive epileptic seizures from a television show. Afterward, the episode was banned, and Porygon was effectively removed from the anime. However, Pikachu caused the flashing lights by destroying missiles, not Porygon. Despite that, Pikachu continued to appear, while Porygon didn't. The joke here is that Pikachu should be held responsible instead. The term Azoth on the iceberg likely refers to Project Azoth, a plan by Team Magma or Team Aqua, depending on the version, to revert the planet to its original state. Historically, Azoth is an alchemical term once associated with Mercury, thought to be the base of all metals, though that's now discredited. Beyond the reference to the team's plan, nothing else seems to connect it to the iceberg entry. Pulseman is a video game made by Game Freak, with many of the developers later working on Pokémon. It was released in Japan in 1994 for the Sega Mega Drive, and later came to North America via the Sega Channel in 1995, though only for a limited time. The game is well regarded for its fun gameplay and great 16-bit soundtrack. Every scene in the Generation 1 opening is hard to trace back definitively. There's one of Ash riding Lapras that looks similar to the band Holiday High Jinks episode, but that exact scene isn't in the episode. Another features Tentacruel smashing a building, referencing the Tentacool and Tentacruel episode, which was only briefly banned after the 11th of September. Aside from that, the rest of the opening includes scenes from aired episodes and some made just for the opening. If anyone has more information, it'd be interesting to hear, but so far nothing conclusive has been found. The theory about Genesect being made from Capitops comes up again. It's based on their similar appearance and Pokédex entries that place them both at 300 million years old. But Genesect is a bug, steel type, likely from enhancements by Team Plasma. If it were made from Kabutops, it should logically be rock, water, or steel water. While their forms are alike, it seems more likely to be coincidence than connection. If Genesect were water type instead of bug, the theory would hold more weight, but as it is, there's not enough evidence. The mention of an unobtainable Arceus is unclear. There is an Arceus in the game files with a placeholder typing, but it can't be accessed. That's the only related information found, and no other fully unobtainable Arceus versions are known from the games. In Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, fire types are extremely limited. Players can only get Chimchar and Ponyta before the post-game, and not even an Eevee to evolve into Flareon is available before beating the Elite Four. It's a notable lack in the game's variety. In Pokémon Platinum, there's a character called Looker who won't reveal his real name. Many fans think he's inspired by the 10th Doctor from Doctor Who, played by David Tennant. The popularity of Doctor Who makes this plausible, but Looker's design could just as easily be a typical detective archetype, so it's open to interpretation. The statement, Porygon did nothing wrong, refers to the Season 1 episode, Electric Soldier Porygon, which caused seizures due to a flashing red and blue scene. Guinness World Records acknowledged it for causing the most photosensitive epileptic seizures from a television show. Although the episode was banned, Porygon was unfairly blamed and has not appeared in the anime since. Pikachu was the one who triggered the flashing by destroying missiles, but Porygon took the fall. The situation has sparked calls for justice for Porygon and criticism of Pikachu's continued presence. The mention of Azoth is unclear. The only known reference is Project Azoth, part of Team Magma or Team Aqua's plan to return the Earth to its original state, depending on the game version. Azoth is also an alchemical term once associated with Mercury, believed to be the base of all Metalsa concept now outdated. Beyond the connection to the team plans, nothing else stands out. Pulseman is a video game developed by Game Freak, with many of its staff later working on Pokémon. It was released in Japan in 1994 for the Sega Mega Drive, and in 1995 through Sega Channel in North America, making the Western release very limited. The game is known for its fun gameplay and impressive 16-bit music. Do you like this personality? The Pokémon Kadabra has a strange origin story. There's a theory suggesting it was once a young boy who lost control of his psychic powers and transformed into the Pokémon. While it's labeled as a theory, it's still unusual rather than dying and being reborn. The child just became a Kadabra. Moving on to Drowsy and Hypno. Drowsy is considered very unattractive, and Hypno is even more unsettling. Something about Hypno is just disturbing. Drowsy's Pokédex entry says, if your nose gets itchy while you sleep, it may be standing over your pillow trying to consume your dreams through your nostrils. Hypno's entry claims it carries a pendulum and once abducted a child it had hypnotized. That's undeniably eerie. Drifloon, another notable example, has an entry saying it grabs children's hands and pulls them into the afterlife. It apparently avoids heavier children. Stealing children and judging their weight, Drifloon is shockingly harsh. Another creepy one is Bennett. According to its entry, it's a discarded stuffed toy that became possessed, endlessly searching for the one who threw it away to get revenge. It essentially seeks to harm the child that abandoned it. Mirage Island in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald is extremely difficult to access. Each day, the game generates a random number between 0 and 65,535. If this number matches part of a Pokémon's internal value in your party, the island appears. If that Pokémon is removed, the island vanishes. Players can constantly change their teams to improve their odds, but the chances are just 1 in 10,923 with a full team. On the island, there are Winnote, ranging from level 5 to 50, and a tree that produces the rare lychee berry, the only place in the game to find it. Then there's the oddity of Primeape learning Iron Tail despite not having a tail. It even mentions this fact directly in a game called Pokepark, where it says it learned Iron Tail without having one. Now onto the Sega Pocoa console, aimed at educational gaming. Released in 1993 in Japan, and later in North America, Europe, and South Korea. Though it was discontinued in most places by 1998, it lasted in Japan until 2005, selling 4 million units compared to just 400,000 in North America. It used the same hardware as the Sega Genesis and featured a stylus as a cursor. The games came in book-like cartridges where turning the page changed what happened on screen. In 2002, Nintendo and Game Freak made the rare move of releasing a Pokémon game on a non-Nintendo system, Sega's Pico. In 2004, a Pikachu-themed Sega Pico console was released, resembling the Pikachu-themed 3 Deciseconds. The Pokémon games for the Pico were Pokémon Catch the Numbers, July 2002, Pokémon Advanced Generation, I've Begun Hiragana and Katakana, November 2003, and Pokémon Advanced Generation, Pico for Everyone, Pokémon Loud Battle, July 2004. These were educational games similar to early PC titles like Reader Rabbit. Later, the Pico was succeeded by the Beaner, essentially a Pico 2, which continued to receive Pokémon titles. These included Pokémon Advanced Generation, Pokémon Number Battle, October 2005, and Intellectual Training Drill, Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, Letter, and Number Intelligence Game, April 2007. Kadabra has a strange origin story that ties into the idea of human transformation. A theory suggests that this Pokémon was once a young boy who lost control of his psychic powers and turned into Kadabra. While it's just a theory, it's still bizarre. Rather than dying and becoming a Pokémon, the child simply transformed. Next up are Drowsy and Hypno. Drowsy is described as unattractive, and Hypno is even more unsettling. Drowsy's Pokédex entry states that if your nose itches while sleeping, it's likely this Pokémon is hovering over you, trying to eat your dreams through your nostrils. Hypno's entry mentions an incident where it kidnapped a child using hypnosis, which is disturbing. Then there's Drifloon, a popular yet eerie Pokémon. Its Pokédex entry says it grabs the hands of small children and takes them to the afterlife. It even avoids heavier children, suggesting a harsh form of body shaming. Another unsettling entry comes from Bennett. According to its Pokédex, it's a stuffed toy that was discarded and then became possessed. It now roams in search of the child who threw it away, seeking revenge. Mirage Island is a mysterious place found in the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald games. It's incredibly rare, even more so than encountering a shiny Pokémon. The island appears only if a randomly generated number matches part of the personality value of a Pokémon in the player's party. If that matching Pokémon is removed, the island disappears. Players can increase their chances by rotating their team, but the odds remain very low, around 1 in 10,923. The island contains a group of Winauts and a tree that grows the rare lychee berry, the only place in the game where it does. Primate learning Irontail is another oddity, considering it doesn't have a tail. There's even an in-game reference where a primate comments on learning the move despite the anatomical contradiction. As for the Sega Pico, it was an educational video game console released in 1993 in Japan and later in other regions. While it ended in most places by 1998, it lasted until 2005 in Japan, selling 4 million units there, compared to 400,000 in North America. The Pico used Genesis hardware and featured a stylus pen. Its games came in cartridge form, with attached storybook pages that changed the screen content as you turned them. In 2002, Pokémon titles were surprisingly released on the Sega Pico, a rare move for a Nintendo franchise to appear on non-Nintendo hardware. A Pikachu-themed Sega Pico console even came out in 2004. The 3 Pokémon games for the Pico included Pokémon Catch the Numbers, 2002, Pokémon Advanced Generation, I've Begun Hiragana and Katakana, 2003, and Pokémon Advanced Generation, Pico for Everyone, Pokémon Loud Battle, 2004. These games were similar to educational PC titles like Reader Rabbit. The Pico eventually evolved into the Bina, which continued to feature Pokémon titles, including Pokémon Number Battle, 2005, and Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, Letter and Number Intelligence Game, 2007, on 3 specific days each year, which mark significant national tragedies. The rate of Pokémon encounters is lowered by 10%. These dates are the 6th of August, the Hiroshima bombing, the 9th of August, the Nagasaki bombing, and the 11th of September, the 9/11 attacks. In Pokémon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, there's an eerie location called the Old Chateau in Eterna Forest. Locals, including the Eterna City gym leader, believe it's haunted. Players may sometimes see the ghostly figures of a young girl and a butler inside. Though they can't be interacted with, these figures float as they move, and their identities remain unknown. In Pokémon Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, a poster of a Gigantamax Toxtricity can be found in the Game Freak office in Hihiya City. This is interesting because Gigantamax forms weren't publicly introduced until 2 years later with the release of Sword and Shield in 2019. A musician known for the song Mambo No. 5 once hosted a kids' television segment called WB Snow Jam. During the block, he introduced shows and performed songs about characters like Pikachu, Misty, and Team Rocket. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Phoebe of the Elite Four has a ghostly presence appear in her room. A figure can be seen briefly behind her chair, and another shadowy figure appears behind the player. After winning, Phoebe can later be found at Mount Pyre, where she says her grandmother was proud of your battle, leading many to believe the ghost is her grandmother. The Berserk gene is an item from Generation 2 that confuses a Pokémon and boosts its attack by 2 stages when used. Wild Mewtwo in those games, which can't be encountered without cheating, are always coded to hold one. The item is found near the unknown dungeon, hinting at a connection to Mewtwo. In the Detective Pikachu movie, it's portrayed as a substance that boosts power but causes wild behavior. Pokémon Rebirth is a manga from 2011 that features characters who confuse with Pokémon using an item called a Burst Hearter small gem containing a Pokémon. Breaking the gem allows the fusion, creating Pokémon-human hybrids. The series never explains how these burst hearts are made. Although Flygon seemed like a strong candidate for a Mega Evolution, it never received one. An interview in Nintendo Dream magazine with Ken Sugimori confirmed that a Mega Evolution was planned for Flygon in Pokémon X and Y, but it wasn't implemented. Here's a rephrased version of the provided text in standard English. The encounter rate for 911 is tied to an intriguing detail on 3 specific days each year, which coincide with the anniversaries of major national tragedies. The spawn rate for Pokémon is reduced by 10%. These dates are the 6th of August, the 9th of August, and the 11th of September. August 6 marks the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. The 9th of August is the date of the Nagasaki bombing, and the 11th of September is the anniversary of the terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, there's an abandoned mansion in the Eterna Forest called the Old Chateau. Many people in nearby Eterna City, including the local gym leader, believe the mansion is haunted. Within the house, players may encounter the ghosts of a little girl and a butler. These apparitions can't be interacted with and appear to float as they move. There's no explanation for who they are, adding to the mystery. In Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, there's a poster of a Gigantamax Toxtricity in the Game Freak office in Hihia City. This is noteworthy because the Gigantamax feature wasn't officially introduced until 2019, while these games came out in 2017, making it a hidden early reference. A musician known for a 1,999 hit song hosted a special segment called WB Snow Jam during a kids' television programming block. He introduced shows and performed songs about characters like Pikachu, Misty, and Team Rocket. Beyond this appearance, there isn't much else tied to this event. In Omega, Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire, Phoebe, the second member of the Hoenn Elite Four and a ghost-type trainer, has a room where strange occurrences happen. Initially, a person briefly appears in a chair behind her before disappearing. Later, another figure can be faintly seen behind the player. After defeating the Elite Four, visiting Mount Pyre reveals Phoebe saying her grandmother was impressed with your battle, leading many to believe the ghostly figure is her grandmother. The Berserk gene is a held item found only in Generation 2. When used, it raises a Pokemon's attack stat by 2 stages, but causes confusion. In Gold, Silver, and Crystal, every wild Mewtwo is programmed to hold this item, though Mewtwo cannot normally be found without cheating. The item's placement and its reference in Detective Pikachu, where it's depicted as a substance that enhances but destabilizes Pokemon, suggest it originated from Mewtwo. Pokemon Rebirth is a Japan-exclusive manga that began in 2011. It follows a character named Ryuga and his friends as they battle an organization known as Great Gavel. The story features a unique concept where humans can fuse with Pokemon using an item called a Burst Heart Small Jewels containing a Pokemon. These jewels must be broken to release the Pokemon and initiate the fusion. The origin of Burst Hearts is unknown, even within the series. Flygon, despite being a strong candidate for a Mega Evolution, has never received one. According to an interview in Nintendo Dream magazine with Ken Sugimori, Flygon was originally planned to have a Mega Evolution in X and Y, but the concept was ultimately scrapped. The creator experienced artist block and never returned to the concept. Tentacle Tentaquil is a fictional Pokemon that originated on 4chan's Pokemon board, VP. An artist posted the design, and when asked about it, simply replied, "It's a tentacle." It became a meme on the board, known for its unique move of vomiting blood. Conker's Bad Fur Day, the Nintendo 64 game released in March 2001, contains many pop culture references. A deleted scene once featured a Pikachu, and the plan was to fully include it, but it was removed at Nintendo's request. However, the Pikachu's tail can still be accessed using a cheat device. In the scene, a Pikachu tail enters, while Conker is speaking to mob boss Don Weasel. Don excuses himself. Cartoonish punching sounds follow, and he returns saying, "Got away again. Sorry about that. You know how it is got to catch them all." The implication that Don was physically attacking a Pikachu likely led to its removal. Electric Soldier Porygon is a controversial Pokemon episode that was never aired again following its original broadcast, which caused seizures in viewers. Rumors suggest an English dub exists and was edited to remove the flashing lights. Some claim the episode was fully dubbed but never released. Voice actor Maddie Blaustein stated it was completed, while Veronica Taylor denied it was ever dubbed. This has led to speculation about its status as lost media. Despite the controversy originating from Pikachu, Porygon and its evolutions have remained absent from the anime, likely due to lingering concerns about the incident's association. Hall of Origin is a special area above Spear Pillar where Arceus resides, accessible only through the Azure Flute via Mystery Gift, after obtaining the National Dex and entering the Hall of Fame. However, the Azure Flute was never officially distributed, making the event unreachable through legitimate means. 2 versions of the hall seem to exist, one considered fake, lacking event triggers or Arceus, with its purpose unknown. The reason for the event's cancellation remains unclear, possibly due to disorganization or lack of effort. The ghost girl from X and Y appears on the second floor of the Lumio City Fighting Dojo, briefly flickering the lights before floating past and saying, "No, you're not the one." She later reappears in different areas, including Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, again questioning how the player found her, and repeating the same mysterious line. Her role and identity remain unresolved. Reggie noises in the Pokémon anime refer to the unusual, robotic, and distorted sounds made by Regirock, Regis, and Registeel. While distinct, there's little else to say beyond noting their unique vocalizations. A clip featuring their cries from both the game and the anime is intense and enjoyable. The mention of a PSA 10 Charizard seems more relevant now than ever, given how drastically Pokémon card prices have surged in recent months. As someone who used to collect but stopped because of this trend, it's disheartening to see the hobby overwhelmed by scalpers and hoarders. These types of people have always existed, but now it feels like everyone believes they can get rich by reselling booster boxes. Back in October 2020, a PSA 10 first edition Shadowless base set Charizard sold for $220,574, which is wild considering it went for $36,110 in 2019. The entire first edition PSA 10 base set sold for $107,010 in 2019, further highlighting the huge price gap. The current Pokémon card market seems completely irrational, and it's hard not to wish for a correction. This comes from someone who owns multiple, early, complete master sets. The main message is to collect out of passion, not for profit. Hexmaniac is a trainer class focused on ghost and psychic type Pokémon, replacing the earlier channeler class. They typically have a spooky presence and often speak of paranormal topics. There's not much else to say about them, and it's unclear why they're on the iceberg. In the 2001 movie Osmosis Jones, near the end when Ozzy heads to the bladder to stop Drix from leaving, there's a germ holding a Pikachu. It's clearly a Pikachu, and it seems like no official statement was ever made about this cameo, possibly because the movie was produced by Warner Brothers, who had significant control over Pokémon in the West at that time. Kadabra's last card was in 2003, not 2002 as sometimes stated. The confusion comes from Skyridge being released in Japan earlier, but it reached North America in May 2003. Kadabra has had only a few cards, appearing in sets like Base Set 2, Rocket, Gym Challenge, Legendary Collection, Expedition, and finally Skyridge. In Japan, 3 additional cards were released, 2 in Expansion Sheet 3 and 1 in Pokémon Web. In Pokémon Yellow, the Pikachu you receive cannot evolve and refuses a Thunderstone. However, it can be traded to another game, evolved, and traded back. This workaround was discovered by players, and it surprisingly works. Doing so causes Pikachu to lose its unique features, like following the player, speaking, or participating in the surfing minigame. It's uncertain what happens if Pikachu is traded back without evolving. Whether it resumes normal behavior is unknown and would be interesting to test. The Kanalav Library, located in Kanalav City in the Sinnoh region, contains books filled with legends and myths about Sinnoh and the wider world. These include stories about the Lake Guardians, Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. Some books even suggest that humans and Pokémon were once the same, or only became separate over time. Biological evolution includes a tale suggesting that there was once no clear difference between humans and Pokémon. Interestingly, the same source mentions that humans and Pokémon used to marry. The library where this is stated doesn't have any special features, so it's likely included in the iceberg because of these unusual stories. Ash appears in Generation 7, shown briefly in Pokémon Sunday and Moon as a photo of him with Pikachu on a wall in Mimikyu's room. Additionally, in the demo, the male protagonist's son receives a letter from Ash, indicating that Ash exists in that game universe. In Diamond and Pearl, there's a soft lock on Route 226. If a player arrives there with a specific setup having a Pokémon named Opinion, no fishing rods, and no Pokémon that know or can learn Surf, fly, or teleport and completes a trade on Meister's Island and saves the game, they become permanently stuck with no way to escape, battle, or transport. In Pokémon Let's Go, there are 3 Master Trainers for Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar, named Aaron, Danny, and Ross. These names match those of known media personalities, and one of the names is spelled in a less common way, suggesting it might be an intentional reference. A reference titled Pinky and the Brain likely comes from a promotional Kids WB commercial where Ash and his group encounter the characters from Animaniacs. Ash tries to scan them with a Pokédex, which fails to identify them. Brain then says that by catching all Pokémon, they can take over the world and challenges Ash. The battle ends with Brain's defeat by Charmeleon. Flame type refers to the Japanese term for fire type Pokémon. In a particular song titled To Be a Master, types are listed as grass, fire, ground, and flame, with flame oddly appearing in addition to fire. Poison is notably absent from the list. Berry Forest, found on 3 Island in the Sevii Islands, regenerates hidden berries. When visiting for the first time, players help the game corner owner find his missing daughter, Lostel, who is being threatened by a hypno. After saving her, the player receives a leper berry. This location is unique in Fire Red and Leaf Green for berry farming, since berries don't naturally appear elsewhere in Kanto, and the regeneration works every 512 steps. There's a theory about Machoke's red lines on his arms, suggesting they are torn skin due to overgrown muscles. While it's a graphic idea, the Pokédex makes no mention of it, though the theory remains popular among fans. Pokémon Lost Silver is a well-known creepypasta about a gamer who, unable to buy Heart Gold or Soul Silver, purchases a used copy of a game from GameStop and experiences eerie, unsettling events. The game reportedly crashes right after encountering Buried Alive. He is said to say, "Finally, fresh meat," before dragging the player character into the ground. An image was intended to be shown of Buried Alive consuming the player. That's about all there is regarding Buried Alive in White Hand. We've gone deep enough into the world of creepypasta, so let's wrap this up and move on. This was the Pokémon Iceberg. It took quite some time to complete due to a break after the Super Smash Bros. Iceberg and the time needed for research and scripting. Hopefully, it was enjoyable. Pokémon holds a lot of meaning, and while some of this was already familiar, researching brought new discoveries as well, thanks to everyone who subscribed. It's amazing that so many people are interested in these long videos. It means a lot. Regarding the next video, there's an idea for one that was previously uploaded years ago but has since been made private, as it no longer fits the current tone. There are plans to revisit and improve it professionally. It will likely be the shortest video so far, probably under 30 minutes, which should make it quicker to produce. There's also the possibility of creating the music for it personally. A move is currently in progress, and once settled, video production should become much faster without the limitations of the current schedule. Thanks again for all the support watching, subscribing, commenting, and liking it all helps tremendously. Take care and have a great day. The game is said to crash immediately after the player encounters Buried Alive. Upon this encounter, he would say, "Finally, fresh meat," and then drag the player into the ground. An image of Buried Alive devouring the player was supposed to be shown. That's essentially all there is to the Buried Alive character in Pokémon White Hand. We've delved deeply enough into the creepypasta side of things, so let's wrap it up here. This was the Pokémon Iceberg. It took a while to complete, especially after taking a month-long break following the Super Smash Bros. Iceberg. Time was needed to research and write the script for this one. Hopefully, it was enjoyable. Pokémon holds a special place, and while many of these topics were already familiar, researching led to discovering new ones as well. Thanks again to everyone who subscribed. It's great that so many people are interested in watching long videos like this. The continued support is really appreciated. As for the next video, the plan is to revisit an old idea, one that was previously uploaded but is now private because it no longer fits the current direction. It'll be redone more professionally and will likely be the shortest video yet, under 30 minutes, meaning it should take less time to produce. The music for that one might even be done personally. There's also a move happening soon, and once that's complete, production speed should increase significantly due to a more flexible recording schedule. Thanks again for watching, subscribing, commenting, liking. All of it really helps and makes interaction enjoyable. Take care and have a great day.